Hello. Turn this down a little bit. Today's gonna be another one of those we're so chillin' kind of lives. We're gonna have a good time. We're gonna chat about stuff. But yeah, the energy's probably gonna stay right about here. I got all up in it last week and it was very fun. But I do not know if my energy is going to reach that same level. Hi, Christina. Good to see you. How you doing? I am being surrounded by multiple cats as usual. You know. It truly is. It's adorable because they are both very attentive and very loving at many times of the day. But as soon as I start this, because they hear me talking, they're both just like, oh, it's attention time. Because if you're talking, you're probably talking to us. And I'm like, no, sometimes I'm on the phone. Sometimes I'm doing a live. And they're like, no, it's us. No, we are the attention. Right, buddy? Yeah. Yeah, last week, I do, because you, Christina, you weren't here last week, right? But hello, Caitlin. Hello. I feel like I touched on a lot of interesting stuff last week, but also it was kind of crazy. So I want to do a quick, super tiny summary. First thing was I sort of updated the way that I've been doing energy cleansing and everything. Like when I do my own personal cleansing, energy stuff. Long time ago, I just did the sort of soft moonlight white energy come in, gross, sticky, darker energy go out. But but what I've started doing is I've started trying to more intentionally balance the energies that I'm coming in first, so that things don't have to rebalance out. Because what I realized was that sort of darker, stickier, grosser energy that I was letting go of, it wasn't black, it wasn't that kind of dark, it was just mucky gray. And it was, so I had kind of been doing 75% of the work from my viewpoint now, right? With this sort of mini epiphany thing that I had last week, where if I'm intentionally bringing in two different counterbalancing energies that I know that I use anyway, right? I know that I use, again, I try not to get so far deep into the Taoist stuff because I'm not preaching Taoism, right? But if we're looking at that kind of energy model where there is the yin and the yang. Hello, Lid, how you doing? I was like, oh, I use both of those all the time, and I know that I use both of those all the time, but essentially I'm only taking in this one sort of lofty, sort of I guess to make it adjacent, feminine energy, yin energy, kind of soft white moonlight thing. That's all that I'm taking in. And what I'm actually using is both, including that the yang energy that has all of the spicy, invigorating, activating type energy too. So what was kind of happening was I was taking in one energy, sending out the sort of gunked up stuff I didn't need anymore, and I was still having to kind of recuperate that more active energy passively after doing this whole energy cleansing thing. So I just wanted to talk about that again real quick because I've been doing that more this week, and it's been helping a lot, where I still feel when I do that I have the sort of nice, calm, meditative state that you have after meditating, or after, ooh, buddy, I got a new computer stand, and I've been worried the cats are going to knock it over, and that might happen today. We'll find out. But since doing that, I have been noticing that I still have the relaxed post-meditation feeling, but I've got, it's not sleepy, it's relaxed, but it's not. So that's just been really, really cool to see that I made an intentional change in the energies that I'm taking in when I'm doing a cleansing, right? Because cleansing is not just getting rid of stuff, right? You have to kind of replace it with something. So yeah, I've been noticing whenever I do that on purpose, as opposed to the old version of what I was doing, I have a notable difference in my energy afterwards, and that's really exciting to me. So I just wanted to talk about that again for a minute, because, yeah, I spent a long time talking about it last week, but I wanted to recap it because I think it's cool. I love subtle energy stuff. It's like, yeah. Again, I said this last week too. It's just like, this is part of what I do this shit for. Like, I like experimenting with energies, and that's part of what where the sigils come in, is they get like all those subtle energies when I'm charging a sigil and I'm reaching for subtle, specific pieces of energy and threads, and right, like, I don't need the whole rope and the whole cord that is like fortitude. I need the specific, yeah, I don't need like the whole rope that is fortitude. I need the specific thing that is like steadfastness when the wind is blowing, right? Like, that's kind of the level of specificity that you get into sometimes, depending on, like, I don't usually get into that with the sigils that I have previously done on live, but like when I'm doing stuff for a client or for myself, I can get that level of specific sometimes. So it's just cool that I'm like, I've been basically treating myself and my own like energy and cleansing and all that as this base level, basic recharge, basically. And now that I'm treating it more complexly, I'm noticing the difference afterwards. So I think that's sick as hell. Because I love the calming post meditation feeling, but I still want to be able to like do stuff afterwards. So yeah, having that intent, right? All about intent, having that intent to pull in both and feel the balance while I'm doing it makes me feel balanced afterwards, and then I don't have to like the energies around me don't have to counterbalance for me. So I've been digging that. I am curious, Lyd, since you're here, did you have any thoughts of the other thing that we talked about besides that last week was lots of stuff of like big universe-sized energies and balances and like source and chaos as those kind of energetic counterpoints. So yeah, I went on a whole thing about that, but I'm curious if you had any thoughts about that afterwards. No pressure. You don't have to. This is not an essay assignment, but I'm just curious if you had more thoughts afterwards. Because otherwise, my other topics to talk about tonight were just like, I because I've been in that more sort of Taoist adjacent headspace, I kind of was thinking like we could maybe look at the book a little bit more, and I could maybe, because I know whenever we do the bibliomancy at the end, sometimes it's like, wow, that was like really pithy and intense, but like what the hell does that thing mean? So I was thinking it could be fun to like look at a passage or a couple passages from the Tao Te Ching and see if I can if I can get, yes, deeper, but also kind of shallower, and just like pick up the different levels of meaning, because we're always trying to jump straight to the heavy stuff when it's in a bibliomantic context and when it's in like a divination context. So that was kind of my other plan for today, but okay, cool. Well, I'm glad you guys got to have a nice conversation about it, because it's just so much fun to talk about this stuff with friends. And so, I mean, and that's basically what started this. So I want to do something else before I jump into the book, because I don't want it to just be like book club, which we could always do a book club. That could be fun, but that would be different than a weekly live chat. It's an understanding I need to work towards. That's fair. It was I know it was a lot of like big brain cosmic swirly stuff, so no worries. I was just curious. As I'm the ADHD says, thing fix thing, that thing need fixing. I probably need to pull it on this side. It's fine. This is fine. Everything's fine. This is what the live is. The live is just me fixing my desk. No. Oh, the other... My brain has been so all over the place. I basically had like 3 different half ideas for what I wanted this live to be. One of them is I did get this from a friend forever ago. 'Cause I just, y'all know, like, I love trinkets and charms and bits and bobs. Um, and I love this, and I've loved it since I got it, but I never did anything with it. And I do feel like this is the kind of thing that would be a perfect little. It would be a perfect little something, but I never knew what to do with it. So I was trying to think if I could, like, work through that process on live, because, like, enchanting an object, charming an object, whatever, like, this would not be a whole. Yeah, brain is traveling. That's a great way to put it. My brain is traveling. This, the way that I work normally, as much as I love herbs and I love a spell, I love, like, an incantation and all that stuff. But so much of the time, if I am doing anything, it's on the fly. So I was just thinking, like, I do so much sigil stuff, and the process that I use to make sigils is very similar to the process that I use to just enchant a thing, So that was my other thought, but I didn't get far enough to figure out what I wanted the thing to be. It is quartz, so, amplification would be a pretty basic thing, but it's got this lovely, like this is not in the matrix that it originally came in. I don't know if it'll focus. I think this was a thing that they had to, like, make and put it into. So it's not like, will you focus? It's so shiny. Okay, you will not focus. Oh, kind of focus. That's fine. You get it. You get the idea. But yeah, this has a nice feeling to it that's, like, a little different and a little heftier and heartier than quartz normally is. I'm assuming there's some kind of... I don't know how they made this, like, thing that it's set in, but it feels kind of like iron. Like, it feels almost... Like, it doesn't feel rusty, but actually it kind of does. Like literally, like, the texture almost feels rusty. So, I was kind of like... I thought it might be fun to go through, like, my thought process on how to mess with that and how to, do stuff. But just a thought. Mind travels in circles, chasing its own tail sometimes. Yeah, my brain over the last couple weeks has, like, been kind of... That's what I was like, it's not iron ore exactly, but it's iron-like. Yeah, my brain's been running in, like, spiral circles, like, passing over the same topics, but trying to hit them at different levels. Like, not even trying, just kind of naturally hitting them at different levels. Which is, like, great when you really want to go in deep and analyze something, but sometimes I'm like, I should really probably worry about something else for a bit. Because I have astrology-wise, I am in that portion of, like, early Saturn return where I can feel and somewhat see, like my Saturn return technically would have started, I don't know, a few months ago-ish. But the last month specifically, I've been seeing those points where, like, the structural things that Saturn does start to break down. And those, like, systemic scaffolding pieces that are what are kind of changing when you're in your Saturn return. I can see those starting to, like, move and shift and give way and go into another direction. So I've been excited and weirded out by that. I haven't been scared by it yet. But it does mean, like, that's kind of what I mean when I'm like, yeah, traveling in a helix, yeah, and, like, yeah, helical thinking, and... Or, is that what heliacal means? Heliacal rising is an astrology thing that I never understood. I don't think that's quite what that means, but it's probably related, right? I could look that up, but I don't think that you guys need... I don't think you guys are asking for in-depth astrology lesson live today. We could do that if you want it, but I don't think anybody's necessarily asking for it. But yeah, traveling in a helix is a good way to think about it, because it is... Okay, I'm this is pushing me back into my, like, funky time brain. the time spheres level of funky time brain, where it's like because you're coming at the same thing at a different time, you're kind of also coming at it at a different frequency or a different whatever. And it is very much the ADHD saying, you must examine, you must learn, you must dive into, you must hyper focus, and then you must come out. Hi, Gibson, good to see you. I'm glad y'all made it. I was not sure if like the Tuesday switch was gonna be too weird and it was gonna take a while for people to pick up. So it's really good to see you guys. Happy y'all are here. But yeah, I've just been. I guess I've just been in that universe level galaxy brain kind of thing for the last 2 weeks or so. So lots of cosmic forces and all that shit. This is this is what I mean. I knew that this live was going to be chill because I knew I didn't quite have enough of a plan to be like, let's go do this. But I didn't know how scattered I was actually going to be until right now and like, I think that's fine. Y'all will stick with me or do your own thing at your own pace. But the ADHD is hitting hard, and ever since I've started meds, the evening after the meds have worn off is just a crazy feeling of like, and this is a known thing that like the symptoms of the ADHD itself can kind of like spike once the meds wear off. So it's weird. It's a weird time. I was exaggerating a little bit. I'm not really hyperfixating on it. It's that thing where like every time that it comes up, it's a thread that I need to follow, and I do. This is on that topic. I do still love and prefer the like threads analogy for any of this stuff because just the way that I view all of the everything, all of the makeup of everything is this like fabric textile, but energy, the textiles of energy, like energy made into textiles, but they're not all the same. You know, the thread count's not the same. Some of them have patterns, some of them are one color, but like all of it is the energy layering. You know, so like that's how I see the spiritual world, is in this mass of threads, and some of those threads make up deities, and some of them make up memories and ghosts, and some of them make up ideas and concepts. You know, Matt being hyperbolic, never heard of it, never once in my life been hyperbolic. Don't know what you're talking about. No, but yeah, like I said, I'm not actually hyperfixating on it, but every time that it comes up, I have to follow it through. Like it's one of those things that I can't let go once I get the little seed. You know, once the little itchy thing is in my brain, I must dig into the thing. And so that's happened multiple times in the last week. So that's kind of what I mean. Random but not so random question. What do you know about using actual dice for divination? I've played with it. Yeah. I've played with using actual dice in divination. It's funny. So similarly to when I talk about using playing cards versus tarot cards, playing cards is like the simpler version of tarot, right? Because you're taking out, excuse me, you're taking out a lot of the inherent imagery. You're still using metaphor, and you're still using some symbolic interpretation of what's on the cards and what the numbers are and what the suits are and all of that stuff. But it's simpler. I switched to selenite from the other rock for a second. But when you're talking about dice, it's like another level simpler than that. But because dice are less structured than a deck of playing cards is, you can also make it a lot more complex if you really, really want to. So most of the people I know who use dice as divination use it as part of casting lots. So I know I've touched briefly on this in the past, but for quick review, casting lots as a divination system is basically just, you have trinket, you have many trinket. You put trinket into cup or bag or sack or little cloth, and you throw trinket on table or like onto a cloth. So it's like runes and casting lots are very, like, casting runes and casting lots are the same basic process with very different symbolism behind them, right? So people who cast lots will use dice in as one of their trinkets and one of the things in there to give them a more dynamic read on like what number does the dice land on, how close is the die to the other trinkets in the lots, etc., etc., etc. So that is a full, like, basically DIY, like 100% DIY. Make your own kit, make your own stuff. You can have your runes in your casting lots if you want. You can have, you know, the little tiny ceramic cat from when you were 2 years old. Like, doesn't matter. So that's like an example of how complex it can be when it's incorporated in. When it's just dice, you get into this really weird gray area, which is a cool gray area of, you really are at that point assigning all of the meanings probably before you go too far into it. Or if not assigning, you're at least choosing a system within which to think, right? So if you're using one die, and I have, where is it? I think it's in the other room. I have a really badass, like, black painted, like, black and gold skull die that's like that big. It's like a novelty thing, right? I bought it from a Halloween shop or something. But I love that for like the most simple of questions where I'm only using that one die and I'm like acknowledging the limitation of like that being particularly a 6-sided die, and knowing that I'm going to interpret that numerologically, but it's probably, you know, like it's intentionally limited. Like I'm using the limitation as part of the system of, I want the simplest thing, the simplest answer, like aside from flipping a coin, right? So again, you're sort of like setting at the beginning of, are you reading that as the number relates to intensity, where like it's a spectrum of 1 is no, 6 is yes, and then you have a spectrum of like the degree of agreement between there. That could be one way that you could use a single die, right? Alternatively, you could just use the numerological meanings that you'd normally use from 1 to 6 and just know that those are the only answers you're going to get. And you can play with it within sort of those bounds of divining. Like you're the diviner, you're using the tool, you are interpreting the tool with whatever help that you're getting, whether it be 100% you or whether your gods or guides or whatever are having input. You're interpreting it, you're choosing like roughly how you're going to read it. And if you don't choose before you read it, then you just fucking wing it, and that's fine too. You can do that. But ideally, if you're going to do this regularly, you probably do have a system, right? Where this gets even more interesting and weird and cool, yeah. Loki wants you to know that he told me to ask. Yeah, it's a very, because it's dice. It's like gambling. It's a very, like, I would use dice for Odin. I would use dice for, like, with Loki, if I ever worked with Loki. Sorry, Loki. Sorry, not sorry. I'm not sorry. You have fun. We're in different camps. That's okay. But, so you could use more dice, right? This is where you get into, you are playing with the system, you are making it whatever you want it to be. So, at the point that you've got more than one 6-sided die, again, keeping it like limited to the most basic, not only are you interpreting the separate numbers, you can look at it in like the numerology way of, or like the normal way, right, of adding all of the dice together. So if you're using 2 6-sided die, you can have an answer from 1 to 12. Well, 2 to 12. I guess you could get a 1 if one of the two dice fell on the floor and the other one landed on a 1, then you would just only count the 1. You know what? You get what I'm saying. But as soon as you have 2 or more things that you're casting in a casting lots type system, excuse me, the proximity of those 2 items to each other is also probably going to be part of the story that you're reading and telling, right? So, if you have 2, whatever, say it's a 3 and a 6, and they're close to each other, that would tell me that, like, that's a heavy indication to me that you are in a period of growth in a group where you're all growing rapidly together. And I've told you guys my interpretations of 3s and 6s a million times going through tarot stuff, so you get the gist. And the fact that they're close together, it's this like group coming together, sort of multiplying, growing, sort of exponentially, as like one collective made up of many, right? If you have the same thing where you have a 3 on the far left and a 6 on the far right, then you're going to look at those much differently, where they may not be completely independent situations. Like, you may still want to interpret them together, but you're not necessarily looking at, like the 2 things are less connected, right? As opposed to one group building on each other and helping each other out and growing together. You're looking at a situation over here and a situation over here that are both important to what you're talking to, but very loosely, if at all, connected, right? As soon as you got 3 dice, then you can have either, again, so the way that I talk about reading packets of cards when they fall out, and that's how I like to read them, I would then start looking at these as like packets, groups of dice. So if you have like a 1 and a 3 over here and a 6 over here, that changes the meaning again, right? And where you can the 1 can either be the individual you're reading of, like either the individual reading, the person you're reading for, whatever, that 1 being probably an identity or a singular entity relating to that 3 and the 6 being up here. So I digress, but you see what I mean when I'm like, that's really one of those do-it-yourself, build your own system, expand, grow, and play with it kind of ways of reading. So, because if you're playing like a gambler's game, like a dice game, you might have like 6d6s in a cup and throw them and have the fates be, I forget what the name of that game is called, but that's one of, I did used to like one of the dice games where it was like 6d6s and you were sort of gambling on which ones you would keep and which ones you would throw away, and just sort of build this, not deck, like a hand of dice kind of. So like that level of play with dice and games that exist is very, 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 very similar to tarot, obviously, and playing cards and playing with cards. So within that, and the fact that there are like however many dice games there are, right, and however many of them are like, you can just have, like, you can divine with dice by having just like a roll off, right, and like having one person roll a d6 and another person roll a d6 in a very sort of D&D type way, and higher number wins, or higher number means that person is more in favor for this question or whatever. Like, you can really play with that as a system and find what works for you, because it's like deeply unlimited, right? So there is a benefit to the limiting factor of cards, but there's also, a limitation is a limitation. So dice keep you in some ways far more constricted, because whatever dice you're choosing, whether it is a d6 or a d10 or a d20 or whatever the fuck, whatever dice you're choosing to roll to divine with is part of the divination, right? So if you're doing like the lithomancy thing, right, where you're like choosing which rock, if you choose which dice and then you roll it, that's already part of the so you can just play with it so much. There's so much to get out of it, I find that overwhelming. Personally, I stick to my one very pretty black and gold d6, and if I am going to use dice as a divination thing, I'm just going to do that. But the potential of using dice is really, yeah, the potential of using dice in divination is expansive, there are divination things that are just like a handful of pennies, and how many of them are heads up and how many of them are tails up, right? And like stuff like that. So there's a million ways to divine with a million different systems. There's a million different dice games. This is one of those things where you just want to look at the factors that matter to you and how you want to play with it and how you want to read it. And however you do that, however you choose to do that, or however you intuit to do that, or whatever just fucking happens, that's your way for the day. And you can change it tomorrow if you want to. So, cool, right? That was a fun question. Thank you for asking that, because I don't even, these are things like that I know, but I don't think about, and I don't explore on my own very often. So that was fun. Thank you. And if anyone has any follow-ups, totally hit me. Loki likes being part of the live, I guess. Loki likes attention. And I can say that because I have an Odin candle right here. Yeah. Yeah, cool. It did. This is just, I love, y'all know this. I love divination. I love energy. I love stuff. So that was just a lot of fun. And now I'm like thinking more about it, but I'm like, I should probably move on. Loki popped up and said, hey, throw some dice. Yeah. Yeah. Again, like the coolest and most fun part about dice and playing cards is that they are so much more directly connected to play and to gambling, frankly. Like, I'm not a gambler. Like, the thought of losing money because the cards didn't go my way does not compute. I do not like that thought. But the idea of playing with the cards and having a good time and having, like, sort of in good faith game with cards is, like, excellent to me. So yeah, the portion of the like gambling spirit, right? No, this is interesting. Okay. Because I have theories about the different spirits of the different like types of money and the different types of like monetary gain and things like that. That's cool. And so one of them is because people fucking love gambling. And I do think that there's like there's a very different energy from spending and receiving money, like working and receiving money, and playing and receiving money, right? And so like gambling is playing and receiving money, but it's also playing and losing money. And it's like using money as the energetic weight behind your play. Which, again, to me, that's kind of crazy. I get, like, I'm much more aligned with gambling in the form of something like blind boxes. Fucking Labubu's. Everybody's talking about fucking Labubu's. And anything else from Pop Mart and any other blind box thing. There is a guy who used to use, I don't know if he still does it, but there was a guy who was using Uno cards for divination, and I think it was all a joke. I didn't watch him that often, but he would do live streams doing like Uno card divination, and I think he was fully taking the piss, but like his reads weren't bad sometimes, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. But yeah, so like the idea of receiving money and losing money through play really heightens not only the play but also the money. Because it's almost like an exponential increase of stakes, where like now not only do you lose the game but you also lose the money, but you might win the money. So this just like this energy of gambling and this like encouragement to play with this encouragement to amplify stakes and even to go much too far, right, as definitely happens. It just changes your entire relationship to money when like the essence of money itself is exactly the same, but the way that you're gaining or losing money is completely different. So there are a bunch of people out in the world. Ooh, blind boxes, like crystals. Yeah. That's fun. That's good. I've definitely done mystery boxes and gotten like crystals and things. I have a really cool tiger's eye bracelet that I wear sometimes that I got from a like mystery box crystal box thing. I love it. Anyway, so the energy of the money itself is the same, and I have my own theories about like the energy of money, of like, because money is energetic exchange in this really sort of, I want to say dumbed down or dulled down, but also it's kind of not, because it's also like really important and really heavy. Like money wants to move is my interpretation of it. Like money as a spirit is the combination of like trust and movement, because money is exchange, the same way that I was talking about last week, that like energy is kind of subtly generated through the exchange of information. Like this as a method, a medium of information exchange generates an energy around it that like we are engaging in this thing that generates a specific energy to this thing, and this form of of information transfer, and like the engagement with the medium, not the medium, me, haha, the medium, the substance, the thing that we're talking through. Haha, funny pun. Okay. But like engaging with the medium, engaging with each other of like however many people are in chat at that given moment, all of that generates energy and is part of that like energy transfer and information transfer and this sort of like field of energy that's around the thing that we're doing right now. Money does the same thing. Money generates a certain, in my interpretation, generates a certain level of like energy in its transfer, and the transfer of money is what money was created for. Like we could have just stuck to bartering, but we didn't. We created money so that we didn't have to barter all the time. We could have one standardized thing that we could trade that had this understanding, and that we all had this understanding of the value of this thing mutually. This is why it makes me laugh every time this happens, because every few years when I'm just like out in public, like the last time this happened, I was at my rock climbing gym, which I haven't been back to in a bit, but I was just sitting there warming up, and I heard some teenagers in the corner just going like, yeah, like, have you ever thought about the fact that like money's not real? Like money's only matters because we agree that it matters. And it's like, you're at that stage of being a teenager. I remember that. Like, because that's kind of what we're doing here now, right? But like, it's true and it's false, and like money is a real thing, but what we are exchanging is energy. We're exchanging. I received that money by building a website. And now I'm giving you that money either in exchange for a service or a good, or like through Facebook Marketplace so that I can get a new nightstand, right? Like that money is a representation of my work and energy and effort, right? That I received that amount of money for that amount of effort. I am giving you that amount of energy, money, effort as the transaction to pick up a new nightstand on Facebook Marketplace. So that thing of like money wants to move, money wants to be in transition, but when you don't move money, that also kind of has its own energy, right? Because then we're talking about billionaires at the extreme level. At the not extreme level, you have a savings account that hopefully has some money in it. And you need and that money is safety net, and that money still like wants to move, but its purpose is not to move. So like it will move when it needs to and not any earlier, right? But like the energy of money overall is still for it to be exchanged, not for it to be hoarded. At the point that you hoard money, the money becomes less important than the energy and the power that having the money gives you, right? So like that's when we get into very political blah 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 blah, and you get where I'm going with that. But just the idea of how many people throughout the years who are some type of magus, right? Some type of like ceremonial magicians or folk magicians, or the guy down the street who does weird shit but swears he's not a witch, right? Like that kind of. No matter how many of those people we're talking about, a bunch of those people have tried to influence the lottery and have tried to ensure that they would win the lottery. But then by like attempting to ensure that you're winning the lottery, you're just feeding more energy into the lottery. And you're investing more of your personal resources into the pot of energy, and the pot is already energy because the pot is money. So you're just pushing more energy in to the big vat of money that you're trying to win, and you're not actually pulling anything out. You're not guaranteeing any, like, you are pushing energy into like a giant pillow, basically, like a giant energetic pillow. Again, just a huge pot that's just sitting there that is meant to be exchanged and is meant to move at some point, but until then it's just there. So you're just throwing more energy and the desire for like movement in a specific direction to a giant pot of money that wants to move but doesn't care where it goes. So like, and keep in mind, obviously, none of this even closely resembles financial advice, business advice, blah, 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 blah. This is just a medium's interpretation of the energy of money. But it's cool to me because, and it's funny, because so many people care so much about where the money that's in the lottery right now goes. And so few of them will actually be able to influence it, because out of 100 million people trying to play the lottery, you're definitely not the only one trying to influence who wins. So I'm just like I digress. I'm gonna leave it there for now, I think. But I think that's fascinating and fun and weird and a little scary also. But it's just, this is why I went on a whole thing explaining the economics of the underworld, however many months ago that was, because it's just like the energy and like the energy exchange that happens when money happens is crazy. Like not crazy, like insane, but just like fascinating to me. As a spiritual person, I find money spiritually interesting. Doesn't mean that I love it. Doesn't mean I love this stuff. Doesn't mean I love capitalism. Doesn't mean I love the way that the system works. But the sort of base value and the base existence of money as a thing and what it does is very interesting to me. Sorry. Shuffling around. I know, Kat, I disturbed you. I am a horrible person. I have thought about, I've been thinking, I haven't been very inspired on what I want to do sigils for next, so like that's why part of why I'm thinking about this, of like maybe if I change the medium once or twice and enchant a thing like this instead of doing a sigil, then maybe I'll get a little bit of a pop. It does it does make me want to charge this with like the energy of movement in that same way that like money moves. But maybe I won't do that today, but I'm gonna think about that more because I think that could be really cool. Regardless, and like, none of that's talking about manifestation as a way of getting money, just because I don't manifest in the traditional sense. I don't manifest the way that everybody else manifests. I like manifest by doing sigils, doing like normal spells, like just. I mean, I do manifest by the normal way, but it's not on purpose, right? Like we all manifest a certain level of stuff just subconsciously, and that's why I'm always kind of pushing you guys to be a little kinder to yourselves, because, and myself, I'm also pushing myself to try and be a little kinder to myself. You know? Yeah, no, for real. It's reasonable to communicate. It suggests that I communicate directly to money to get the results. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there's this weird thing of like you don't necessarily. This is getting into the weird spiritual financial advice thing that I'm trying to avoid doing. I'm very intentionally not telling you how to get money by doing magic, right? But there's a level of it where you do have to have intent of like I make money for the thing that I'm doing right now. Like I make money for the thing I do at my job, or I get more money for my job. The times that I have done straight up money magic, and I have talked about this one, I know, but it's been a while, I think. I did a novena to Raphael, which was a crazy choice, but it was just the best pick that I had at the time for the context of what was going on. Where I was like, can you help me get a raise? And on the 9th day of doing that novena, I got a raise. You know, so like you do have, there's a level of communication, and it almost doesn't even matter who you're communicating to. Like you just have to have the clear intent, and you do have, like, that was a very manifesty but also very angel-y way of how that whole thing worked out. But yeah, like you need to have that kind of input into money to have your magic get you any money back. Yeah, you have to communicate, you have to like clarify, like the universe is not your bank. You don't need to show proof of receipts to get a loan or whatever the hell. You don't have to show the universe your account balance for the universe to give you money, but you have to kind of like explain how you want the money to come in sometimes. So I was thinking, there's somebody who owes me $200 that it could really use. There are pay me now spells. There are like pay me back spells. Like I don't think I'm gonna do that. But boy, if I could get that $200 back, that'd be great. But like, if somebody does like legitimately, quote unquote, if you have a claim to money that is like true enough, you can put out that kind of pulling force to get that money. So in the terms of like a loan or getting paid back for something, you can do stuff like that. You can do things like, I want to get money by getting a raise at work. You can do like, I want to find lost money, and you might find, change in the couch, or you might find a $20 bill in the washer, or you might come across a $20 bill on the street, right? Like, there's a level of specificity that really, 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 really helps with any kind of money magic. Any kind of magic. The more specific you can be, always be specific. But yeah, the more specific, do it. And like so the more communication you can have, make use of that communication in order to get the monies. Excuse me. I have to literally communicate, my rate is this per hour. I think this is going to take this many hours, and if it takes more than that, you still have to pay me more than that, or we are agreeing that whether or not it takes that amount of time, I'm getting paid this at the end of the project. I have to directly communicate that stuff as a contractor, as a freelancer. So, yeah, like every part of receiving money requires some level of communication, either if you are playing with your money, if you're gambling, there's communication and inherent understanding at a certain level of either just, I am playing with my money and I will pay the debt, or I will receive the money if I win the game. Like, my money is tied to the game. Whatever happens to my money, or whether or not it is my money anymore, is tied to the game. That's there. In whether or not, like, if you are literally at a casino or something, and there is like a high limit table, by sitting at that table, that is like if it's communicated that that's a high limit table, and you're sitting at a table and you're gonna play that game. That is communication. That is an understanding and part of the agreement of playing the game and playing with the money. So every part of monetary exchange requires you to communicate. So yes, Lid. Communicate and be as specific as possible, especially if you're going to do money magic. Or just regular deal with money, obviously. Yeah, that too. the boring stuff too. Ha-da-da. So lame. Just a sigil on that topic, I'm feeling that. Nice. Oh, that's so good, Christina. I love that. I understand the feeling of I don't want to make a mistake and make things worse. Again, the specificity will make things not be worse in theory. Still, like yes, be cautious. Yes, have like a plan. But generally speaking, I've never had of the like money magic things that I've done, I've never had one like backfire, and I don't think I've even heard of any backfiring. Like this is not the same. If you're dealing with a djinn, DJINN, if you're dealing with a djinn, maybe don't wish for money, right? Like if we're going with like the stereotypical genie thing, like in all of the djinn stories and all of the genie stories and all of the wishes about money, those backfire usually from a lack of specificity, but also from like the malintent of this middleman entity that you're dealing with. Of like, the djinn does not give a shit about you. If it is bound in this wish granting contract, and its entire life is spent waiting for somebody else to enter a new wish granting contract, they don't give a shit. That djinn is trying to live their own life, and they can't until your wishes are gone. So they will just, especially if you are not specific, they will just grant the wish, and if you get fucked over, you get fucked over. That's not how normal money magic works, though. That's not how normal money magic goes. Unless you are, like, making a deal with the devil, which even that might work out okay for you. I don't know. Don't ask me. I've never made a deal with the devil, especially not for anything, for money, no. I make a joke, but I do, you know what I mean. Making deals with entities for money is sketchier than doing money magic that you are very intentional with, and like, you know, talk to your guides maybe, etc., stuff like that. Yeah. Oh, would it be too late to book a reading for tomorrow? I think the website is set to not allow bookings within 24 hours. If you want to try, you can. You know me, I'm happy to do a reading for you. Even if you want to, I don't think I have any meetings tomorrow. Like, you know, that's the only reason that I set it to be like 24-hour limit. If you want to book it, but you need it for tomorrow, go ahead and book it for whenever it lets you book it, and then DM me, and we can find a time tomorrow to actually do it. Okay? So I should be fine. I don't have any, I'm not in the middle of any rush jobs, and I don't have any meetings tomorrow that I know of, so should be cool. Yeah. Okay. We are at the 55-minute mark. Does anybody have any closing questions before we get on to our bibliomantic thingy-majigger? I do like the idea that I had of trying to get a little bit deeper into the book and spend a little bit more time with it than just the bibliomancy. But also, it has a really good place as the bibliomancy. It does a really good job. Kitten. Sorry, kitten break. Little Kit Kat. I would pick her up and show her to you, but she is so comfy and so cute. I must leave her be. Okay. bibliomancy time. Let's go. Yeah, and y'all know the drill. General energetic affirmation of yes, I want to be included in this reading means you are now included in this reading. I'm just grounding for a sec first. Oh, I never set up my little energetic tent that I always do. I didn't set it up today. That's fine. We were fine. I've still got like stuff up. I just didn't set up my normal thing. Whoa, wait, is this... Oh, this is a long one. Okay, cool. Yep, that's between you two. Okay. This is passage 15. Cool. I don't remember this one. It's been a while. Okay. The ancients who followed Tao, dark, wondrous, profound, penetrating, deep beyond knowing. Because they cannot be known. They can only be described. Cautious like crossing a winter stream. Hesitant like respecting one's neighbors. Polite like a guest. Yielding like ice about to melt. Blank like uncarved wood. Open like a valley. Mixing freely like muddy water. Calm the muddy water, it becomes clear. Move the inert, it comes to life. Those who sustain Tao do not wish to be full. Because they do not wish to be full, they can fade away without further effort. That's so good thematically for what we've been talking about today. Good. Okay. For talking about, like, truly, like, the deepness and the surface level stuff of this book that I was talking about earlier in the live. And, like, the ancients who followed the Tao, deep, wondrous, profound, penetrating, deep beyond knowing. Like, the ancient, older people who, like, older people, lol. The ancients and the ancestors following the way, knowing that it is the way, but knowing that it is unknowable. Deep, wondrous, dark, profound. Because they cannot be known, they can only be described, the ancients themselves. Cautious like crossing a winter stream, where like the ancestors are part of the Tao in a way too. Like they're not part of it. There's a distinction. They are part of it, but they're because they cannot be known, they can only be described. Cautious like crossing a winter stream, hesitant like respecting one's neighbors, polite like a guest, yielding like ice about to melt, blank like uncarved wood, open like a valley, mixing freely like muddy water. Me literally talking about like the expelling of energy in using that like muddy water analogy. Calm the muddy water, it becomes clear. The two pieces separate. That's what, again, I was talking about that a lot last week, of like the pieces of the like muddied energy re-separating out and recycling through the... Okay. Move the inert, it comes to life. Moving, money wants to move. Move the inert, it comes to life. Yeah. Those who sustain Tao do not wish to be full. Because they do not wish to be full, they can fade away without further effort. Of that, like, that's what we're talking about, like the detachments and the unentanglements, the lack of entanglements and all these things, to be able to live within the world of the Tao in the way, and move with the currents of the way things should be, and the way of the world and the energy, the way that it naturally is. Yes, 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 yes. I love this one. I forgot all about this one. it's been a long time since I've actually read the whole book. I don't even know if I've ever actually read the whole book in like a succession. But anyway, and like look at the formatting. The formatting's so nice. Anyway, yeah, passage 15. Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay. Wait, I want to know what... I want to know what that said comment was about. I don't... Okay, y'all lost me. But that's alright. Thank you guys for joining me. It's been a lovely live. It's had a lovely time talking to you. Thanks for questions about divination that I can nerd out about. Letting me talk about subtle energies so much. Love having you guys here. 15. Yeah, passage 15. Appreciate you guys. Yeah. Anybody, yeah, y'all both, I think it's just the two of you left. Y'all know you can message me if you have more questions or need more stuff, and I'll get back to you when I can. Yeah. Alright, I'm gonna call it a night. Thanks for joining me, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good one, folks. Bye.